It is the next hour of the CNN Newsroom, and we want to start with a developing story that we have been telling you about, and it is political. Tonight, a rift in the Tea Party movement, a major player and his group getting the boot from the National Tea Party Federation after controversial comments on race. The Federation, which may be the closest thing the movement has to centralization, today kicked out Mark Williams and his group, the Tea Party Express, which is perhaps the most recognizable Tea Party group. Williams has been locked in a war of words with NAACP President Ben Jealous this past week. The civil rights group called on the Tea Party movement to condemn racism in its ranks. Here's Williams on CNN this week.
Racists have their own movement. It's called the NAACP.
Well, Williams then responded with a blog post pretending to be the NAACP president, writing to Abraham Lincoln. Here's part of what he wrote. He said, "We colored people have taken a vote and decided that we don't cotton to that whole emancipation thing. Freedom means having to work for real, think for ourselves, and take consequences along with the rewards. That is just far too much to ask of us colored people, and we demand that it stop." Williams explained why he wrote the letter to CNN's John King.
What I did was successful, and I'm glad it was successful. I'm sorry I had to go to those lengths to slap some sense into a lot of people who are so afraid of politically incorrect language that we can't get a conversation started.
Okay, Williams later took the letter down off his website, but he defended it as satire. Mark Williams was booked as a guest tonight, but he backed out after his expulsion. And here's his email to us. He says, "Sorry, have to cancel, traveling plans changed last minute." He did post a response to the Federation's decision today on his blog, and it says, in part, "The careless individual Tea Partier who assumed the mantle of leadership did so long enough to turn a critical and serious movement and delicate peace with skeptical groups into a world wrestling-style personality conflict with me at the center." Joining us now is the man Williams is apparently referring to as the careless individual Tea Partier. In the blog posting, David Webb, spokesman for the National Tea Party Federation. What do you make of his remarks?
Well, Mark Williams is an embarrassment. He's toxic. He's someone who, in his own words, says, "What I do better than most is figure out which way the parade is marching, dash to the front and say, 'Follow me.' Nobody wants to listen to me rant and rave. They want to hear some kind of conflict." Now, there is no rift, and I'm sorry to disappoint the gleeful left. There's no split in the Tea Party movement. Tea Party Express is a PAC. Our Country Deserves Better PAC was founded in 2008. When the Tea Party movement rose up, they joined in and they came on board. The Federation is not a top-down
leadership. But you gladly welcome them, right?
Loose affiliation. We welcome them under the parameters, and they agreed to the rules. And the rules also include exclude gross misconduct. And Mark Williams, from his comments about the monkey god when he referred to the mosque issue at Ground Zero to this, and before the Tea Party movement, has a history of this. I just read you his own words. He is a user. He has used the movement, and he's an embarrassment.
Okay, here's my question.
This is not a fight in the Tea Parties.
Here's my question then to you, Mr. Webb. Then why, if you think he's a gross embarrassment, he's done stuff before this that you were aware of, why then allow someone like that into your organization?
Well, the organization Tea Party Express came on board. Most organizations, and unfortunately every once in a while, you'll have someone that does something beyond the pale. This was the last straw with Mark Williams. It's time to get, we're now, instead of talking about fiscal responsibility, limited and effective government, and the race issue, which, by the way, was a serious discussion, which I led earlier last week on Sirius on my show. We had a serious discussion until he wrote this letter. And now if the letter is that good in its satire, why did he take it down?
Yeah. So what do you say about that letter? Did you find that letter offensive or in any way racist as an African American?
I found it offensive, and I found it unnecessary. I found it self-aggrandizing of someone who wanted to insert himself into a conversation and get the headlines. We had a serious discussion.
But
we were taking on the false accusations of the NAACP.
Pardon me, but to use words like coloreds, and to say that, you know, we colored people, how else will we get a widescreen TV in every room, and words like massa, and then sign the letter saying Tom, which means Uncle Tom, Precious Ben Jealous, head of the colored people's movement, or wherever he signed. You didn't find that racist?
I didn't find it racist to me because I'm above that. But the word
no, I don't mean to you. I mean
so
him. I'm not talking about you. You didn't think that his actions were racist and what he wrote was racist?
I don't know if I'm the right person to determine that he's racist or not. I don't know what's in the man's heart. But I found it clearly offensive, as did many other people, not just myself. That's why this action was voted on and taken. This is a movement that needs to focus on the issues. And when we're attacked, we need to talk about the issues, not get into this invective and hyperbole. And that's why Mark Williams is not a good representative, and he has never been a Tea Party leader. So
you said you did find it offensive, though, right? Am I correct?
Offensive, clearly.
You found it offensive,
yes.
And so that's why you booted him. But you don't think that the words that he put on paper was racist, and even as an African American, they didn't offend you?
No, they didn't offend me they didn't strike me as clearly racist, if that's the distinction. But they were certainly clearly offensive.
Okay, so then, does this in any way you feel, and was this part of the rationale for rationalization for kicking the Tea Party Express and him out, is that in some way he was proving Ben Jealous's point, the NAACP's point, that there are some racist factions and parts of the Tea Party, not the entire Tea Party? Do you think that he was proving their point in some sense?
No, I think what he was doing was what he's always done, constantly coming up with a way to be above it and over the top. He has been offensive in many respects in the past, and it simply was time for them to make a decision. The Tea Party is about policy and issues. We're off those policies. You and I are discussing Mark Williams. We should be discussing the fiscal issues. We should be discussing proof that what was said in D.C. Either did or didn't happen. We have challenged the CBC to join us in an investigation. We have had no response. Those are the things we should be discussing with the NAACP and with the Congressional Black Caucus, not Mark Williams.
Okay, here's what I want to ask you then. If he is saying that there is no clear leadership here and no one can kick him out, and that you sort of deemed yourself the leader here, so then what does this mean for the future of the Tea Party? Does this mean it's even more fractured than before? Does this mean someone splits off and does one thing, another group does another thing? What does this mean for the Tea Party groups?
What it means is that it was an act of self-policing, where this is not a top-down leadership. The Federation, you come to it willingly. We work together. We talk to each other. We address issues. We share ideas. We find ways to move the movement forward. By removing him from that, we can get back to focusing on the issues. And that's what these over 80 groups representing hundreds of thousands of people across the country are focused on. The issues, the policies, and the coming elections, not this kind of hyperbole.
Yeah, and I wanted to get him on because I was going to ask him, even with just an intro to psychology class, in order for you to even pin that, it has to be inside of you, those words. And most people who don't think that way about people wouldn't even have the faculty or the sense to write something on paper like that. And so I'll get your response to that, because I can't ask him because he's not showing up tonight.
Well, as I said, I know what's in my heart. You know what's in your heart. I can't speak to his. But Mark has a history of doing this, of bomb throwing, and as I said, in his own words, he will see the parade, run out in front, and say, "Follow me." He wants this.
Are you going to talk to him?
This makes him tick.
What would you say to him?
If he wants to talk, I would say focus on the policy and the issues, not your own self-interest, which is what it appears to be.
David Webb, thank you very much. We appreciate it. I want to tell you that the head of the NAACP, Benjamin Todd Jealous, has been listening. We're going to talk to him on the other side of the break and get his response. And as I understand, he has released a statement as well about this issue, and he's going to speak to us moments away. So you heard my conversation with David Webb, the spokesman for the National Tea Party Federation, before the break. Now the head of the NAACP is here, Benjamin Todd Jealous. What did you make of what he said?
Yeah, it was extremely dishonest and disingenuous. This is a guy who just a couple of days ago said there was no way for them to police themselves, and then they did. Now he says that there's no fracture, and there is. You know, then he goes on to say that he's not sure that they've made racist statements, even looking at Webb's letter, which says, you know, that slavery was a good gig. And clearly there are people making racist statements. I mean, he just needs to deal with reality. You know, as I've said before, you know, David Webb has shown some real leadership, but but you got to be honest with people, and you can't have people just staring at you, staring at this letter and being like, golly gee, I don't know if it's offensive, I don't know if it's racist. Clearly it was racially offensive, clearly it was a racist statement. You know, clearly you can't see into somebody's heart, but you can see their words, and these words are deeply troubling.
Yeah, and as someone here, one of the people here in the studio, one of the camera guys said, if he's saying it's offensive, the only thing offensive about the letter was its racial tone. So by saying it was offensive in a sense is in some way admitting that it was racist in a way because of what he said. So thank you, Wes, for pointing that out here in the studio for me. You did commend him, though, for breaking ties with the Tea Party Express.
Yep. Yeah, no, I mean, look, again, they have proved that they can do what Sarah Palin refused to admit they could do. You know, what so many others with Fox News keep trying to spin isn't possible. Oh, we're so loosely federated, there's no way we can, you know, do what they just did. So, look, they need to just keep on heading down this road. With increased power and prestige comes the increased responsibility to act responsibly. They need to stop the lies, you know, saying that we called them racist, we didn't. They need to stop the lies saying that
That's what I want to, can you hang on one second?
Like,
can you hold on one second? That's what, in all of this, and I listen to both sides, and I understand when the other side says, right, when the Tea Partiers say, this is clearly not the biggest issue facing the African-American community. And I asked you that earlier in the week, and so I agree with that point, and I asked you about it, and you responded. The other thing is that I'm hearing is that saying that the entire Tea Party is racist. I have not heard you say the entire Tea Party is racist ever on television or during your speech.
Yeah, never. I mean, it's, you know, look, what we're doing will improve the country, it'll improve civility, it'll keep my people from getting hit over the head with signs by Tea Party folks, and it will improve the Tea Party. Nobody will be better off than the Tea Party. You know, we have seen throughout history, look, when the Democrats harbored racists, blacks didn't really get involved, and they stayed kind of a, you know, states' rights, Dixiecrat party. When they pushed them out, you know, blacks fled the Republican Party. You know, now the Tea Party, as a 21st century operation, has the choice to be a multiracial party. But if they're going to be a multiracial party, then they can't harbor these racist elements. They got to keep doing what David Webb has been pushing them to do. You
echo what I've spoken to a number of people who responded to, you know, my interview with you, my other interviews earlier in the week, and they said, you know, I believe in what the Tea Party believes in at its core. If they're talking about, you know, less taxes and, you know, smaller government, whatever, as an African American, I would join the Tea Party. But I am concerned about some of the signs and some of the things that I'm hearing here. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I mean, look, their folks, you know, came to Black Family Reunion, and they had an opportunity. There was a Tea Party event next by. They could fly, or they could be nice to people. Instead, when they saw the NAACP booth, they started screaming at our folks, saying we were responsible for making the monkey president, and this monkey president. You know, look, if you take that element out, yeah, people can have a conversation. You know, we at the NAACP pushing for a big march on Washington on October 2nd called One Nation. We believe that we're going to get out of the Great Recession the way that we got out of the Great Depression, by creating jobs. If they want to debate that issue, whether we can create jobs through tax cuts or whether we need to create jobs through a new WPA, that's what we all want to talk about.
So Ben, I've got a couple more things I want to, if you can just get to it, if we can get to it. The one thing I want to ask you is, people say, why then doesn't the NAACP condemn, you know, the new Black Panther movement, or when there seems to be, go ahead.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, I mean, sorry.
I didn't hear, what did you say?
I said done and done. I mean, first of all, let's distinguish here, right? The new Black Panther Party is a creature of Fox News. They have like 40 people in them. They don't belong to the NAACP. They don't come to our events. If they did, we throw them out. They show up with any of that craziness that you see on Fox News. You're gone and you're condemned. Our call to them, as I've said to David Webb many times, is the same thing it is to the Tea Party. Get the bigots out of your ranks. But let's be honest. On the one hand, you have a group of 40 people. On the other hand, you have a group, the Tea Party, that 40% of the country claims to identify with. This is a much bigger issue.
Okay. You're talking about bigger numbers and a movement that has gained a lot of traction, a lot of media attention over the last year or so. Okay, I get that. The other thing is, you're human. This Mark Williams was channeling you, saying like massa, we colored people. He called you Tom, basically saying you're an Uncle Tom. What did you think about that? Man,
it's laughable. I mean, it's really laughable. And that's, you know, look, you've got to have a sense of humor in this work. And, you know, somebody, you know, and Mark Williams just gives you, you know, lots of cause just to laugh with that letter. It's deeply troubling. You know, my 12-year-old nephew may get on the computer and Google me one day and get a little confused, but then I think he'll have a good laugh about it too. You know, there's nothing funny about it except that he thinks he's entitled to decide who's a Tom, and you know, and that Lincoln was the biggest racist ever, and slavery was a good gig. I mean, the guy's twisted. He should have been thrown out when he when he referred to a prophet as a monkey god. I mean, you know, good riddance, Mark Williams.
Yeah. Benjamin Todd Tellis, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Don.